Typhoon on the right. Typhoon asked us earlier. He's the person who asked, do we gonna get a feature match? We said no, we're gonna go with one of the other creative decks in the top 8. He said, which one do you mean? Table 1, 2, 3, or 4? True story, by the way. It's a true story.
That's actually pretty funny.
All right. So who wants to go first here? Does Zefra want to go first?
I assume so. Most decks tend to be wanting to go first, but I haven't seen a lot of Zefra decks around. I don't know what their game plan is. I assume it's going to be based largely around Heavy Metal Foes Electromite. Still a pendulum strategy. It's going to be making good use of that. Obviously, Electromite isn't even a Pendulum Magician card. It's just a generic card for any pendulum strategy.
Right. So it's actually Oliver who's going first. He's got a Pot of Desires, Lilybell, 2 Solemn Strikes. Let's see what that Desires is going to bring.
It's been met with the Ash Blossom for Typhoon.
That's interesting.
So we won't see any cards drawn.
Oof, that's a minus 10. Minus 11 if you add the pot itself. Although there's a hand trap for that. Oof, that's pretty rough. So 2 Solemn Strikes face down for Oliver. It's so weird to say your own name. Now it's Typhoon's turn, he's got Zefraxi, Zefrath, Terraforming, and Zefranyu, Secret of the Yang Sing. Oh, we decided to go with Zefra Yang Sing, by the way, for the name, because he's playing enough Yang Sing cards. And by enough, I mean 7. 7 in the main deck.
Ah, didn't see this. Yeah.
Yang Sing, yeah. Oh, sorry, 9 pillars.
Even more.
Even more, yeah. So it's a fair amount of Yang Sing
Basically
cards.
a Yang Sing deck.
So the Yang Zings can be very powerful, but they're much less good than they used to be. We lost Denglong, first of the Yang Zing, to quite a recent Forbidden Unlimited list. Not the latest one, but it fell in 2017, and now the cards don't quite have the same power plays that they did before.
It's interesting because it never was a super popular deck that a lot of players played. It was only that some really gifted players that worked with the deck for quite a while said this is a really, really good deck, although hard to play, I think. Is what I heard very often.
Yes, the Denglong itself, we saw quite a lot of from Dinosaur and other strategies that were just able to put out a level 5 synchro. You didn't need to be playing a lot of Yang Zings just to be able to make use of that as a generic level 5 synchro engine, giving access to the very powerful Zefra trap cards.
Right. So, how do you favor Yang Sing going up against Trickstar here?
It's really not something that I know much about. Given how the game has kicked off, it has to be favoring the Yang Zing player. He's got a much stronger opening hand. Trickstar stuck with just 4 cards. 2 Pot of Desires on the opening turn was really rough. And the Zefra player, Typhoon here, seems to be going through his searches, getting the bits that he needs. He's just pendulum summoned for 1 by the looks of things.
Usually that is good news.
For the opponent, yeah.
Yeah, if you... Thank you for that addition, yes.
But that pendulum summon of Zefranyu allows him to search for the Zefra counter trap. Or is it the Yang Zing counter trap? He's playing 9 Pillars and Zefra Divine Strike.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure which one of those it was that he got when Zefranyu was special summoned.
Yeah, I'm gonna see it in a minute. Once it hits play.
I think that's
it looked like 9 pillars.
9 Pillars of the Yang Zing. So yeah.
It is. I wasn't sure if I counted 8 or 9 pillars, but it was the 9 pillars, yes.
Yeah, there we go. You see the
Zefraxiton, when it's summoned, is able to target a Stellar Knight or Zefra card you control and a face-up card that the opponent controls and destroy both.
Yeah, so Solemn Strike bites the dust. But you could have chained to that, right?
Yeah, I do believe that strike could have been used to negate that effect and destroy the Zefraxiton.
Yeah, there was no reason really not to do that either, because he took more damage by the attack of... He's going to take more damage by the attack of Zefra.
Perhaps Oliver felt that disrupting the pendulum scale was actually going to be hurting Typhon more than it would hurt Oliver to lose the strike.
Yeah.
Here's a second attempt at the Pot of Desires. This time it is going through. It is not. I'm taking everything back I just tried to say. And that is actually enough disruption from Zefra Yang-Sing, played by Typhoon, to score the victory in their first game.
My mind is blown right now.
It's super crazy. He dropped a hand trap and then a counter trap, and that was enough.
Yeah, job done.
In a way. It wasn't so much his own deck going off. It was more him stopping his opponent from going off.
I've got this strange feeling like this. You know, there's a lot of times where we see decks with huge power ceilings to do crazy things, but Typhon's deck here did exactly something. Is the reason that he is here because he is able to very consistently perform this exact maneuver?
Yeah, that's a question that we might ask him later on, if he's lucky enough to win that second game, or the third game, a possible third game.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen the full power of this deck.
No, nobody's saying that. But it's more like every other deck wins by assembling a gigantic field and then overwhelming your opponent. This was not the case. It didn't look like that. He had a reasonable field, let's just call it that, but he had enough disruption to stop his opponent from doing anything, really.
Yeah, this kind of looked like this was the minimum that Typhon could do with not so much advantage.
I'm expecting to see some fairly big plays with Heavy Metal Foes Electromite coming in here. So
with a much better hand, but I think this was kind of all I'm saying is this looked like Typhon's kind of low base of what the deck could do. The floor of the deck seems very high.
My God.
That's what it seems
It's got to
like.
be a very weird house that the Zefras are living in. They have a high ceiling and a high floor.
Yeah.
Not much air between those two.
A house on stilts.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was going to say a castle in the sky, but...
Yeah. They are not known for their stills.
No, they're known for things in the sky, though.
Yeah, flying dragons.
Flying dragons.
All right, now it's going to be time to side deck for both of these guys. Typhoon is playing some cards in the side deck, or at least one of them that we've not seen all weekend. That is an Armageddon Knight. Interesting. He's also playing Cosmic Cyclone, Dark Hole, Dimensional Barrier, Evenly Matched Raigeki in set rotation. 3 of those cards with 1 copy each, of course. Dark Hole, Raigeki in set rotation.
So the Armageddon Knights here seem like they're most likely to be looking for ways into Destrudo. Any deck that plays field spells can use Destrudo into Ancient Fairy Dragon to switch between field spells and gain extra summons. Having said that, I don't think we even see Ancient Fairy Dragon in his extra deck, so other level 7 Synchros, Black Rose Dragon, Yazi, Evil of the Yang-Sing, very strong in this deck.
Yazi's super good, and it can't be targeted, which is... now it's kind of reversed again. Now that we're not seeing so much resort, people are starting to play targeting things.
Yeah.
So Yazi may end up being quite good.
It's weird. On the other hand side, we see some Kaijus in the side deck, together with Cosmic Cyclone. Yeah.
Very powerful against Zefras being activated in the scales and the field spells.
Artifact Lancia, Dimensional Barrier. I'm translating stuff in my head. And then I'm not sure what Pelea Paneia is. Pelea Paneia? Not sure what that is.
If other side decks have been anything to go by, it's probably evenly matched.
Yeah, I was about to say that. It's for some reason the sound of that card in all the other languages is kind of the same.
Yeah.
Like,
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Okay, so this time it is Oliver kicking things off. Actually, it's the second time he's kicking things off, but this time with a much better hand.
Yes,
At
and
least
we don't see an Ash Blossom coming down for Typhon.
Yeah, that's the important part. I think it's actually more that his opponent's hand is worse.
Driver.
Cyframe Driver. Not ever a card that you want to be seeing in your opening hand.
But so much hand traps in Oliver's hand.
Yeah, we have 2 copies of Ghost Ogre.
Yeah, he wouldn't have minded going second here. So we're missing one card in hand for Typhoon. Is
I
it?
think it's a Cyframe Gear Gamma. So if he's able
that
to
would explain
bait out the activation of a Ghost Ogre before he can place a monster on the field, he can summon that Gamma from his hand and the driver and get himself an Omega for negating that hand trap. We see Gamma, a very popular card. It's fine going second. You're able to shut down your opponent's monster effects on their first turn. But where it really shines is if you're able to use it on your turn to negate a hand trap that would stop your play, and then pick up an Omega and continue your plays uninterrupted by that hand trap.
Yeah, you get a free synchro if you manage to get it done on your turn. But
There's an Ash Blossom.
yeah, I'm really not a huge fan of Gamma anymore. I think Instant Fusion into Millennium Eyes is way better.
There's an argument to be had.
Yeah,
But we've seen that move once this weekend, so not that many times yet.
yeah, I think it's going to pick up in popularity.
It does depend a great deal on whether the deck has the space in the extra deck to facilitate that.
Yeah, that's true, and I don't think that this is the kind of deck that would have extra deck space.
Not so much,
So
no.
it's hard to, yeah, when you see lots of one-offs. Like Photon Strike Bouncer, for example, is that really 100% necessary?
It's not a card that we've seen a lot of recently.
If we ask him, he's going to tell you about that one game that he only won
Yeah.
because of that card.
Yeah.
Now, it's all well and good that you can win a game with a particular card, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's still the right choice. A lot of deck building errors can actually come from people winning games because of bad cards and then
Sticking onto
Yeah, they stick to something because it has won a game for them, even though that it's not actually helping them in the majority of occasions. You need to warn yourself away from becoming too results-orientated when you're making those deck decisions.
Right. So now we see the Trickstars putting in some work here.
Yeah, there's definitely an argument to be had about that point, Tom, with, you know, results-driven versus theory-driven Yu-Gi-Oh! I think
Yeah.
some people certainly believe one ways and some people believe the other.
Yeah, there are times when the results
This is
really...
it. Trickstar just tied up the games here.
Yeah, I think Teflon really had a bit of a bad hand there.
And he knew that there was more burn damage coming. And
Yeah.
there was already something on the field. Some attacks had just been made. So he was getting low on life points, and then he sees the writing on the wall. He's like, yeah, I know what's coming. It's fine. Let's just go to the third game.
Yeah.
The Armageddon Knight was his only avenue to make a play there. That was instantly shut down by the Ash Blossom, and he was just sat on a hand with nothing else left to do. So he's forced to take it to the game 3.
Ash Blossom on an Armageddon Night is also something you don't see every day.
No, you don't really see Armageddon Knight every day. He's busy in the darkness.
Well, Armageddon Knight is a card that I'd certainly be happy to see a lot more of. We've seen Destrudo being played in all sorts of decks, and Armageddon Knight is a normal summon, 1-card, level 7 synchro. And there are lots of good level 7 synchros out there.
Interesting. Putting it that way.
Vermilion
So it
Dragon Neck.
makes you wonder why not more players are going for it. Although some would argue that a 1-card level 7 synchro is no longer good enough.
Yeah, I think the major downside to things like Armageddon Knight is that it uses up your normal summon for the turn. Unless you're playing a deck that has the ability to pendulum summon it, Armageddon Knight's effect triggering regardless of how it's summoned, just that one-of resource of the normal summon is very precious. It's one of the few resources that we see still continuing to function in exactly the way that it has done since a long time ago in the game. Previously, resource management used to be a lot more about controlling how many cards you have and how many cards your opponent has. But even then, your one normal summon was critical.
Right.
Now, most of the plays that players are making return as many cards to the hand as it took to invest in making that play. And so the resources that don't cost you cards, like your one-of battle phase, your one-of normal summon, those are still absolutely dominating the choices that players make, even if they have unlimited cards available to them.
It's a funny way of putting it. Unlimited cards. But very true.
Yeah, that's why I really think that some of the matchups that we're seeing where people are grinding right down to no resources, the truly better player does end up winning because they're playing to
you mentioned
much
yesterday
more strengths.
Joshua Schmidt's win rate, for example, which
Yeah.
was 80 something.
It's above 80%. Yeah.
Yeah, so like if you line up 20 players, only 2 of them or 3 of them are going to be able to take a match from him.
It's pretty crazy.
And that was before this weekend. His weekend was okay, but not up to his regular standard. Otherwise, obviously, he would be in the top 32.
Yeah, still, it's just...
Yeah, I don't want to take anything away from him.
But these players here, they've clearly pushed all their way to the top 8, so
yeah,
they must be doing this right at least. We see a very interesting hand for Oliver here. He's got the Kaiju Slumber and 2 Kaijus in his hand. How many total Kaijus does he have in the deck? Has he just turned off his Slumber by opening up with 2 of them?
Here's really important. He has Gamma, and he's just been drawled.
This is exactly what we were talking about in the previous game. The hand trap's coming down, but with no monsters on the field, Typhon is able to activate that Gamma in his hand, turn off the Droll and Lockbird, and secure himself a free level 8 Synchro.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Such a good card.
Yeah. Amazing. So much better than that Millenniumized thing.
Yeah. Eat your words.
In this specific scenario, it's just so much... it is so much better.
Crazy. The hand trap is actually your advantage here.
Yeah, and in fact, you've taken away 2 cards of your opponent's hand.
Oh my god, what an opening.
Yeah, okay, just a Kaiju.
Just
the
a
Desires
Kaiju.
would have been better.
Those Kaijus are really looking like they're a problem for Oliver here.
Yeah.
I see in his side deck that he has a Slumber and just 3 other Kaiju monsters, so with 2 of the Kaijus already out of his deck, that's a Slumber in his hand that can't summon anything at all.
Yeah, so he's not even going to be able to play Slumber, is he? Because it has to summon them both.
Yeah, it has to summon 2 Kaijus from the deck.
Wow, so that is a dead card. So essentially, he is only playing with the Desires and the 2 Kaiju, 1 Kaiju next turn.
So things are shaping up real nicely for Typhoon Bayraktar, who's on a roll right now. He's able to now Pendulum Summon.
I expect we're going to see Typhoon just tying things up really quickly here. That Zefranio in his extra deck, as we saw in Game 1, will be able to search him for the 9 pillars of the Yangzing. He'll have a negation for that Pot of Desires, leaving just 1 card top deck for Oliver to try and find a resolution to this problem.
Right. Oof, this is going to hurt. This is going to be... There's the 9 pillars.
And here we see Electromite.
Yeah, so this is the, we're really starting to see the ceiling of this deck, what its absolute potential is here.
It's very high up in the sky.
It is.
The effect of Zefra sat in the pendulum scale at the moment, not one that I have ever seen activated, but I believe it has the ability to grant a 2nd pendulum summon in a single turn.
Yep.
So
That's correct. Yeah, I think it's got some kind of restriction where you can only pendulum summon Zefra monsters or something like that.
That's true for almost all of the Zefra monsters, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, actually, that's not true for this card. During your main phase, you can add 1 Zefra pendulum monster from your deck to your extra deck face up. That's the pendulum effect. If you do, change this card's pendulum scale to be the same as that pendulum monsters until the end of this turn. You can only use it once per turn.
Yeah, maybe it's the...
no drawback or anything. Must be special summoned from your extra deck by attributing all monsters you control, including at least 3 Zefra monsters. So talk about a big investment. And cannot be special summoned by other ways. After you special summon this card, you can conduct 1 pendulum summon of a Zefra monster during your main phase this turn, in addition to your pendulum summon. And you can only gain this effect once per turn. And also once per turn, because texts these days, they just go on and go on. You can tribute 1 monster, special summon 1 Zefra monster from your deck. And keep in mind, guys, you want to tribute those Zefra monsters. Half of them are triggering when they're being tributed.
Yeah.
And you'll just be able to pendulum summon them back to the field with your additional pendulum summon afterwards.
So, hard to get out, but once it's out, pretty good card.
Yeah. Oliver's really got his back up against the wall here. He's found a Candina for the start of his turn, but
There's so many negates.
staring down Zefra, Divine Strike, and 9 Pillars of the Yangzing, so his first 2 plays are likely to be stopped here.
Come on, be frivolous.
Yep.
You have to be, with these negates, you need to just throw them out,
go,
because you have 2. You have 2, he has 4 cards. You know,
Zefraniu triggering on the destruction from the 9 Pillars to search for a new card. I don't think it's going to matter though, because as soon as that Pot of Desires is taken out, there's nothing left for Oliver.
yeah.
Oof, the writing is on the wall. It's materializing right in front of our eyes. He's got one more activation here, Oliver Vera Delgado, and there's a very good chance that Zefra Divine Strike is going to mean game for Typhoon Bayraktar, who would then advance to the semi-finals of YCS Bochum.
I never thought I would see a Zefra player in the top 4 of the largest European YCS ever.
So,
Wow.
I think Oliver is thinking right now, but there is only one option really, because the Kaiju Slumber is dead. We talked about that earlier. Here is the pot. Is there no Divine Strike?
Well, he'll wait until the
test.
cost is paid, banishing the 10 cards, and then I think we'll see the Divine Strike flipped up,
Skadoosh.
and the hand will
That
be
is it.
extended for the end of the match.
That is it, yes. Ooh, talk about a bold prediction coming true 100%. Typhoon Bayraktar, you can tell with the body language in the upper right corner, he's smiling, he's getting really casual, laid back, shuffling his cards and making
Yeah.
sure that he's ready for the semifinals.
Yeah, we